Hey all my brainies out there, welcome back to another episode of Brain Foods, the educational cooking show where we feed not only your body, but also your mind. And today we're going to be talking about that red substance that's inside of all of our bodies, and it moves around and flows to every part of our body and keeps us going. It's blood. And I know a lot of you guys probably are very squeamish around blood, but we're not going to be dealing with real blood, so don't worry about that. We're actually going to be making some blood samples from fruit and Jell-O. Blood is what keeps us going and keeps us alive, and it keeps our heart pumping. Well, really our heart pumps the blood, but either way, we need blood to survive. And if we lose too much blood, we can die. And so, since it's so essential to life, I kind of wanted to explain a little bit about what blood is, since it's not just a simple red liquid that gets pumped around in our body. It actually has different parts to it. So today we're going to be doing some blood samples. If you've ever gone to the doctor and had your blood drawn, you know what these are. They're little test tubes where they fill it up with the blood so they can run tests on your blood to see different things, like maybe your sugar levels or maybe your hormone levels, things like that. And so I wanted to do something that shows blood inside of test tubes, but I'm going to make it out of fruit and Jell-O, because I ain't eating real blood. I'm making Jell-O blood, fake blood. So let me show you what you're going to need to make your blood sample. You are going to need 3 different types of fruit or little small things that you can put inside your Jell-O. Now what I'm using is raspberries, because you definitely want something red because of the red blood cells. So I've got a whole bunch of raspberries because there's more red blood cells than any other cell in our blood. I've also got some mini marshmallows here, and I've only got a few of those, just a small little handful, because there's not as many white blood cells as there are red. I also took just a few grapes in my hand, just a little handful, and I cut them up into small little pieces, and that's for the platelet. And then I've also got yellow Jell-O. Yellow Jell-O, mellow yellow Jell-O. You can use any flavor that'll go along with your fruit. I've got island pineapple. The reason you want this is because all of our blood cells are suspended in a liquid called plasma. And I'll explain a little bit more about the different components inside of blood in the whiteboard animation that I'm going to do for this video, but just this is what you need. So I've got some Jell-O here. I've got a spoon to mix my Jell-O up with. And for this package of Jell-O, you need 2 cups of water. 1 cup that you're going to boil and 1 cup that's going to stay at room temperature. And you're going to add them both, but at different times. And to put all of our Jell-O in, I wanted something that was going to look like test tubes, because when you get your blood drawn at the doctor's office, it usually goes into a test tube. So I found these 2 Collins glasses. That's what these are called. They're Tom Collins glasses. And the reason why they're called that is because that's the drink you serve out of tall glasses like this. But any glass will work. You just want something that's tall and straight that looks like a test tube. So I've got 2 of those because I'm going to make 2 batches of this. And I'll explain why I'm making 2 batches in just a minute. So let's get started on making this. The first step you want to do is to boil the 1 cup of water that you set aside for boiling. Now I'm going to do this in the microwave. That's why I have a big container that's wide open. Be very careful when you're boiling water in the microwave because it can explode. But it usually only explodes if you have a narrow container or something really small. So I'm going to boil this in the microwave, and if it explodes, I'll make sure to catch it on camera so you guys can see it. Now while that's boiling away in the microwave or on the stove, the next thing you're going to want to do is take your raspberries. Pick one of your glasses, whichever one you want for this, and you're going to take your raspberries, just a few of them. We're going to make 2 of these, so you want to take half of your raspberries. And you're just going to drop them right into the bottom of your glass. Kind of shake them around a little bit. Take a few more. That's about half, I think. Maybe 1 or 2 more. Just like that. And then we're going to take a few of the grape pieces going to drop those right on top of the raspberries, just like that. And then take a few of our marshmallows and drop them right on top of that. Oops. He wanted to get away from me. You may wonder, why am I doing this? Well, that's because, as I'm going to explain in my whiteboard animation, when you're at the doctor's office and they need to test the liquid part of your blood, they will put this through a big machine and separate the different parts of your blood. And so this is what it would look like. All of the red blood cells would be at the bottom, the platelets and the white blood cells would be kind of in between, and then the yellow liquid would be on top. And so I'm going to add my Jell-O right on top of this. So set that off to the side, and once the water is boiling, I'll show you what you do next. Okay, my water is at the boiling state, and so since I've got a nice big container that I put it in, I'm just going to mix the Jell-O right into this container, but you can mix it into a bowl, but just be very careful because this is hot. So now you're going to take your Jell-O, you're going to dump it into the boiling water, and you're going to stir. Just kind of stir it around until all of the Jell-O dissolves. Once that is done, you're going to add your cup of cold water. So let's add that right into there. Now for my first blood sample glass here, I'm just going to take my Jell-O mixture and I'm going to just pour it right over top of everything that's in here already. It's all wanting to float. I thought it would stay at the bottom. Oh, it's not supposed to do that. It's supposed to stay at the bottom. Why didn't the fruit stay at the bottom? That's okay. When things don't go right, just improvise. We're just going to mix all this together now. Now we're going to take the rest of our fruit and stuff and add it directly into the Jell-O mixture, and then I'm going to add it all right into the glass. And as you can see a lot of the red, but you don't really see too many of the grapes and stuff in here, and I'll put a zoomed in picture of this at the end of the video so you guys can see. But the reason why our blood is red is because we actually have more of the red blood cells, but it's supposed to be mixed all together, but my raspberries decided to float instead of sink. So what you gonna do? And I'm gonna stick these in the refrigerator for 4 hours. Yes, for 4 hours. And while the Jell-O is Jell-Oing away inside the refrigerator, let's talk a little bit about the different components of blood and what they do. There are 4 main parts to our blood. You have red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets, and that yellowish liquid called plasma. Now, like I said earlier, red blood cells make up the majority of our blood, which is why it's red. Their main job is to bring oxygen from the lungs to every part of our body. And to do that, they travel through arteries, veins, and capillaries. They are constantly moving. That's because the heart is steady pumping the blood to every corner of our body and pulling it back to the lungs to get more oxygen. White blood cells are unique because their whole job is to defend the body from any kind of invader. So if you have a bacteria that gets into your blood, the white blood cell will reach out, surround the bacteria, then destroy it. This is what keeps us safe and healthy. Platelets have a really important job too. When our blood vessels are damaged, like when we get a cut or something, the platelets will quickly stick together and clot. This keeps us from losing too much of our precious blood. All of these parts of our blood need to travel freely from the heart and lungs to other parts like our head and our legs. They can do this thanks to a nutrient-packed liquid called plasma. This yellowish liquid is mostly water. but also contains hormones, electrolytes, dissolved proteins, and carbon dioxide. And like I said earlier, if you've ever had your blood drawn by a nurse or doctor, you know that our blood looks just like a red liquid. That's because the different parts are all mixed together. Sometimes doctors need to do tests on just the plasma. And for that, they use a machine called a centrifuge, which spins your blood around so fast that the heavier red blood cells sink to the bottom and the plasma stays towards the top. Think of it as one of those spinning carnival rides, but for your blood cells. And so this was what I was trying to do in my blood sample Jell-Os that I did, but they didn't want to stay separated. But as you can see in the drawing, this is what it looks like when they're separated in the test tubes. Alright guys, our Jell-O blood samples are done. And as you can see, I added some red food coloring to this one to make it look more like blood whenever it's inside of a test tube. And this one is the one like if the doctor had to do tests on the plasma, if they run it through a machine called a centrifuge, this is kind of what it would look like. Only usually the red blood cells and white blood cells and platelets would be at the bottom instead of at the top. But these didn't turn out the way I wanted them to because the fruit and stuff floated to the top. So if you hold it like this, that's what it would look like inside of a test tube. So anyway, these things look delicious. I can't wait to dig into them. And so this has got to be probably one of the weirdest things I've made on here so far, but I've got weirder things planned in the future. So stick around for those. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of my videos. Make sure to like this video. Comment down below what you would like to see me make. If there's something you want me to demonstrate using food, or maybe there's a type of food you want me to use, then just leave a comment down below and let me know. And as always, I'll put my social media links down in the description below so you can follow me on Twitter, on Pinterest, on Instagram, on Facebook, all those social media apps. And I will see you guys next week.